Second. Begin the meeting today. Some of you may remember the name Lou Hart, who used to be the director of higher ed. A note yesterday that Lou has been given 2 weeks to live about 2 weeks ago. And so he's at the very end of his life. And so I want to pause just a minute for the Harden family. You take a moment. Thank you very much. I'm going to ask Dr. Warden. He has a comment to make, and then I'll introduce the team here.
Yes, sir. So we had a very unfortunate situation. A few minutes ago, our Zoom was compromised. We got Zoom bombed in a pretty graphic way. So we have canceled our live Zoom. So if those are back on your campuses or you're getting text about I can't get into Zoom, just please let people know that we had to cut off our Zoom broadcast because we were compromised. However, we created a new link. We are recording this meeting by Zoom, and it will be posted in the normal fashion. I just wondered if you're getting text or calls or things about that. We're not live streaming this because of being compromised. We have a quorum present. We have 2 more members that were planning on logging in on Zoom that we have available by cell phone, but couldn't risk another incident. It was pretty graphic for those of the ones that are in the room know what I mean. So anyway, I just wanted to, if you are getting texts or comments about that, please let your folks know that we had an incident. We had to cancel our Zoom.
Thank you, Dr. Warden. Let me introduce the board members just a moment. And some of you I've met many new first-timers, newcomers today. So first of all, down there from, this is from Little Rock. Let Grace.
So much, Dr. Carr, and welcome everyone to Pulaski Tech and the North Main campus. Having this meeting on July 25th has put the dot at the bottom of the exclamation point of a really fun summer here at Pulaski Tech, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that as we go on. But the big highlights were nearly 500 students came to do camps and a variety of things from culinary to baking and pastry to welding to robotics and performing arts. We finished an internship program, a collaboration with the city where we had students, and we didn't lose not one over the summer, to learn advanced manufacturing skills. And 3 of them have job offers and 2 are planning to go to college. So we're really excited about that partnership. And we've been doing lots of renovations, and that is the reason we are in a little bit more intimate setting than you are accustomed to. So thank you for your patience and to Nicole's preparation for today. Just a few logistics for the crowd and for you. UAPTC Guest is a free Wi-Fi that doesn't have a password, but it is a public setting Wi-Fi, so be careful with that. Didn't know we had problems with the Zoom, so we might want to be extra careful. Not sure what's going on there. The logistics, the restrooms are over in this direction, and we'll continue to add coffee and water and tea and things like that. For some in the room, may not realize, but this year, Pulaski Tech is 80 years old. Yeah, a lot of it, they go, wow, I had no idea. Yeah. We are a historic technical high school from back in the day when you sent students off campus from high school to learn technical skills. Over time, we evolved to a community college, and of course, as my colleagues in the room know, 1991, we became an official community college with the change in legislation in Arkansas. And since that time, we've grown to 4 campuses. You're on the main campus today. We have a full service campus at South that's general education, some EMT classes, plus anything with a wheel. Then we have our aviation campus that is at the North Little Rock Airport, and then the Business and Industry Center where we do customized training. Over 80 programs are offered here now. I've been chancellor for about 2.5 years, and about 6 months or so into my chancellorship, we finalized a strategic plan named Resilience, Aspiration, and Purpose. And with that, we fast forward to 2 years now. It's a 3-year plan, and we've been taking stock. What have we done right? What are we still challenged with? Where are we going? Who are we? All of the questions that many of us in this room are grappling with. But with that, we've accomplished many things, so I appreciate a little space to brag on the team here. Goal 1 was all about students, recruitment, persistence. And with that, we've made many strategic hires. We've invested in teaching technology. We've invested in 8-week courses that suit our students more because many of them are working. They're a little older. They have families or they take care of elderly parents, etc. We've started a Diamond Dog grant internally so that we can engage our students and engage our faculty. In fact, one faculty member said not only does it engage the students, but it engaged the faculty back in what they were passionate about, which was mentoring and teaching students. So with that said, did it work? Enrollment in the fall of 24 increased by 11.8%. Spring of 25, it increased 10.5%. Over the summer, we increased our student credit hours by 12.2%. That's in addition to camps and renovations and a career climb internship with the city of Little Rock. One of the most promising and proud moments for me is our faculty and staff supporting students and changing the persistence rate. And since I'm among technical friends here, persistence, of course, is fall enrollment and who came back in the spring or graduated. We increased that this past academic year by 19%. Yeah. And that's changed the dynamic for the enrollment coming in the fall, which looks pretty promising. Goal 2 was all about community engagement and partnerships. With that, some of my colleagues in the room, Colin Calloway with ACC, and 5 other consortium institutions have promised to come together with a Department of Labor grant to increase the number of nurses and paramedics in the state by 1,059. We've got about 3.5 more years to do it. And those colleges are ASU Mid-South, UA East Arc, UA Phillips, CARC, and NWAC. And we get the privilege of working with them to increase equipment, faculty, and trade secrets in keeping those students enrolled and successful. I want to thank this board and Dr. Moore. I haven't seen her this morning. I'm not sure if she's here or not. There you are. Good, because I'm talking about you. Her skill set in creating an incredibly well-crafted request for proposal on the Track 1 hire grants really has allowed this institution, and I'm sure many others in the room, to excel. We have increased the capacity of our aerospace program. We had a really good time this summer. The emails at the time were very serious, very targeted, and appropriate. But looking back, they're hysterical. Did you know that there is no such thing to a title to an airplane? There isn't. We have emails saying, we found a Cessna, we'd like to buy it. Who's gonna go get it? I don't know who's gonna go get it. How do we know the gentleman who's selling it has the right to sell it? Does he have a title to it? Airplanes don't have titles, okay? It's actually easier to buy an airplane than it is a car, I have found out over the summer. And then just this past week, I get these strange text messages of photos from the woman who's managing, Leanne Reynolds, the grant, of someone sitting in a prop propeller plane taking pictures from the cockpit while flying the plane. And I'm like, you can't text and drive. Who said you could text and fly? But they did it. It arrived. The gentleman who sold it to us arrived. We put him back on a plane, a real one, a jet, and he went back to Delaware. And he had all kinds of fun stories to tell about not being able to stop for gasoline on the way. So the summer has been entertaining, and thanks to Dr. Moore and to this board and the Track 1 grant, we've also started to build our avionics program, which will be the only one in the state. And we have forged even stronger partnerships with Dassault Falcon Jet, Arcturus Aerospace, through apprenticeships, training, etc. Under the umbrella of community engagement and partnerships, we also rebuilt our advancement office. And I have to give a shout out to Melissa Hendricks. She's not in the room. She's our Vice Chancellor for Advancement, newly hired. But she took us from $400,000 in gifts to over $1 million in 1 year. And so I'm grateful for her service. And I'll round out with goal 3. It's the people. We have a goal called Esprit de Corps. And at Pulaski Tech, you just can't do anything without people, just like the folks in the room. We've done everything from restructure the cabinet, bringing up the CIO, creating an enrollment management vice chancellor, to restructuring department levels, whether it is IT, records, financial aid, facilities, you name it, bursar. Everyone has a new job description. Their job descriptions are aligned with what they actually do. Kind of rare, right? Plus, we have increased pay, reset pay, and made sure that there was a mid-level spot at Pulaski Tech for entry-level workers to come up into a mid-level spot and grow and eventually become a director or possibly a vice chancellor in the future. So there was some place for them to go. We've increased our payroll by $1.9 million because our people do great work every day. And to tap that off, our student survey in spring of 25 said the #1 priority for them was faculty who would help them outside of class. And we also scored the highest on that particular question. So with that, the last few items here is the Faculty Senate is incredible. They changed their office hours from 5 hours a week to 10, which allowed space and time for them to visit with faculty. And then we have continued to train our employees so that they can be the best they can be. We've completed over 11,000 hours in the last 2 years, training on Workday, project management, Blackboard, Quality Matters, AQ, you name it. So needless to say, I'm very proud and I'm glad that you guys are here. Happy to answer any questions or sit down and let's just get on with the day. Thank you so much, Dr. Carr. Thank you.
Congratulations on a job well done.
I'll just say that the changes that we're talking about today are statutory changes that are a result of changes that were made in the past legislative session. Our board was statutorily adjusted from 12 members to 7 members. I think the reason Dr. Carr was recalling 9 is because we haven't had a fully staffed board in a number of years. With the changes from 12 to 7, I think that it really kind of negates the need for a committee structure. There have been many meetings since I've been here in the last 2 years where we have done committees of the whole. So rather than having a committee meeting in finance breaking, a committee meeting in academics breaking, a full board agenda with the committee reports and otherwise, moving forward, we will just have a finance portion of the meeting or with the entire board serving, an academic portion of the meeting, and then move into our full board agenda. I think it's just an efficiency thing, and we still have the ability to call committees ad hoc and to adjust special situations or needs. Or if we need to do a deeper dive, we can do, by the bylaws now, we can do a subset of the group through a committee appointed by the chair to take care of that work. I think this is a good move for us. I feel good about the changes. Also, with the statutory changes on what is required of someone if they're joining a board meeting in a virtual fashion or not face-to-face, that's also consistent with the new law. So that's all my comments. Be happy to answer any questions.
Good. Second? All in favor, aye? Okay, thank you. Now, Dr. Warden will present the commissioner's report. Dr. Warden.
Well, thank you all. Thank you, Dr. DePro, for your hospitality and for the use of your space. We sure appreciate you always. Just to begin my report, I want to recognize a few folks. I'm going to begin with Dr. Anthony Graham, who introduced himself early. Dr. Graham was appointed Chancellor of the University of Arkansas Pine Bluff on March 21st, following a unanimous approval of the UA System Board of Trustees. He officially resumed the role at the start of this month, July 1. Prior to his appointment, Dr. Graham served as a tenured professor of education and held the position of Provost and Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs at Winston-Salem State University in North Carolina. And that was from 22 to 23. He also served as an interim chancellor of the institution. Early in his career, he was a tenured full professor and dean of the College of Education, North Carolina Agriculture and Technical State University. So, Dr. Graham, welcome aboard, sir. And someone who didn't introduce themselves today, who needs no introduction, I want to recognize Ms. Callan Calloway. She was named the Executive Director of Arkansas Community Colleges, where she has worked for 17 years. She has more than 20 years of experience in student service and higher education policy, and is a friend and a colleague to all in the room. So, Colin, congratulations. And I don't see her in the room today, but we have a colleague that has, what was that? Oh, there she is. Okay, I see it now. So not in the room today, but someone we all know that we want to congratulate, Executive Vice President, Chief Financial Officer of the ASU system since 2011, Julie Bates, has retired from that role and will move into a part-time role as the Chief Financial Officer. So let's give Julie a round of applause. Her contributions to our work in Arkansas are tremendous, and we appreciate her. And she's not off the hook yet, guys. She's still part-time, so we'll still be using Julie. Also, I want to recognize a group today that had a chance to introduce themselves. Starla, would you and our Engage team please stand for just a minute? Our Engage Arkansas staff advocates for local, people-driven solutions. Michael doesn't want to stand. We're going to make him, but they partner with government agencies, municipalities, education system, nonprofits, faith-based sector, and they are our unit that really processes and utilizes the National AmeriCorps grant. And the AmeriCorps grant secures federal funding and subgrants to local organizations and direct service programs. They provide vital services and assist key impact areas such as education, economic opportunity, direct disaster service, environmental stewardship, health, veterans, military families. So I'm pleased to introduce our Engage Arkansas staff, Star Crow, Michael Rao, Katie Matthews, and Zoe's not with us, but I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Zoe. So thank you for your work and for all you do to help us. And so appreciate you. I had the pleasure of hosting an AmeriCorps volunteer a decade or so ago, and my hair was a different color. And I have to say that it was a wonderful experience. These folks do a lot of work for very, very little. And it's what they do get at the end of their service as a AmeriCorps volunteer is an education benefits that helps them move into their education and career goals. So it's a good thing. We're working and looking for different and unique ways to leverage our AmeriCorps and engaged staff back into higher education, supporting your campuses, trying to figure out how we improve our participation rates. So please feel free to information from STAR on opportunities to engage with Engage. So thank you, STAR team. Thank you so much for being here. So really, since the session, I haven't been doing much. We have, since the session, really been doing a lot of work. Everything from looking at a direct admissions program to working for the return on investment metric in the funding formula. There's been a few scholarship changes. Alicia, you know anything about that? Non-credit funding formula, K-12 alignment, concurrent credit, all of these things. And our staff are, I think, almost at the point of exhaustion, but don't give up, guys. We've got a lot of work to do. Our data team has been tremendous. I just want to appreciate all of our staff, the work that's being done. Hopefully you are seeing that we are updating our webpage weekly with updates on progressions through committee work and milestones that we're making. We're going to address about a dozen different rules that we're in the process of promulgating later in the agenda. So I just wanted to say that the work we're doing, some of those things have a 30-day delivery time. Some of those are more like 36 months that we have to get this work done. But there's a huge scope of work going on right now at the Division of Higher Education. I'm blessed and proud to be working with a group of capable professionals to get it done. So I always want to appreciate our staff. So I want to give them a round of applause, please. And another one of our wonderful members of the staff, Dr. Tina Moore, who many of you know and have worked with, is here today. And I'm going to yield a portion of the time of my report. Dr. Moore is going to come talk about our non-credit workforce data. This is big for us because, as you know, we have the opportunity to develop a non-credit workforce funding formula. And many of the trends in higher education are leaning toward short-term, non-credential or credential opportunities that we then, CPL, credit for prior learning, or transition into other opportunities. And I think that's just kind of the state of affairs where we are in higher education. And if we're going to use taxpayers' money to support this work, we have to be accountable to that. And to be accountable, we have to collect data. We had been collecting data for several years, but we have not been collecting data with integrity and fidelity. Not that the people didn't have integrity, but the data wasn't really very good. We have made a shift, and I want to appreciate the institutions and Sonia's team and her relationship with your IR folks to get data that we can depend on and to make some decisions on how we best serve you through supports of non-credit. And Dr. Moore is here today to tell us a little bit about the non-credit data collection. And without further ado, Dr. Tina Moore.
Good morning. While non-credit workforce data has been collected for some time, as Dr. Warden mentioned, during the academic year 23-24, it had a new file that was much more robust and had personal identifiable information of students, such as social security number and date of birth, and much more information. And this posed a challenge to some institutions who were not collecting such information or did not have systems in place to collect that information. Often workforce data was collected just on a piece of paper where people signed in. Often being customized training, employers would send a group of 20 people and we didn't know who those people were. They just showed up for training and that was that. So this was a real transition period for institutions as well as our data team. And Dr. Warden mentioned our data team. I'd specifically like to recognize them. Would y'all stand up? I know that y'all love that as well. But thank you so much. Sonia Hazelwood leads the team, and Rachel Lewis and Blake Cannon have been instrumental in this. And it's really required coordination in our offices, just like it has at the institutions, between IR and workforce and academic sides of the house, because non-credit workforce doesn't just happen in a non-credit building somewhere. It can even be at a four-year institution. It might be the College of Education providing professional development to teachers over the summer, and that's still non-credit. So before we dig into this, I want to give a little more context. This is the definition provided to institutions to determine what to include in the file. You'll notice that, of course, it's non-credit post-secondary courses that develop or enhance occupational, technical, and/or durable skills of individuals. And this is targeted to those who are employed, underemployed, or unemployed. And it's not only to meet the needs of employers, but also individuals, whether that means that they're going to maybe be able to get a bump in pay at work, or they're going to be able to reskill and start a new career. It can be in different formats, just like credit side, but it also might include workshops or customized training, as well as apprenticeships. A caveat that's really important is that although these are non-credit and they're not for academic credit, it's our goal that all learning counts. And not only will it count for the individual potentially having this record so it could be in the new launch system and be part of their learning and employment record, but also if that individual wants to return to campus and pursue an actual credit side of the house program. So say someone takes a short-term training in welding. That's on the non-credit side. Well, later on, they decide, I want to go back and I want to get a certificate, a technical certificate in welding. That should count towards that. We should be able to articulate credit based upon the skills and competencies they have mastered. So non-credit data collection is really a national focus, and we are part of that discussion. Our state is part of the Non-Credit Research Collaborative, and it's a partnership with states and colleges to really change the infrastructure and the research with non-credit data. And improving higher education is so important. Improving higher education non-credit data collection is important for many reasons, because the non-credit data is the quantity and quality, as Dr. Warden alluded to, has been lacking. And this often results in significant work of our colleges and universities going unrecognized. And you may have heard them ask before, like, man, we need some funding for all this work we're doing. And we say, well, we have to have outcomes to be able to justify that funding. As Dr. Warden said, if we're going to throw tax dollars at something, we need to be able to track those metrics and outcomes. So it's really important that we begin this collection. And as we dig into it, I do want to stress that this was the first year and things will get better over time. So another reason that we need to collect this data is the funding. Access opened up for a potential future non-credit funding formula. The Workforce Challenge already covered non-credit, but now that we're increasing the cap from 800 to 3,000, it's more important than ever that we are collecting student information that we can track to labor market outcomes. As you may have heard in the Big Beautiful Bill Act, Federal Workforce Pell was also approved, and this is potential funding for programs that are at least 150 clock hours of instruction, but less than 600 clock hours, and last from 8 to 15 weeks. That opens the door for Pell funding for the non-credit side of the house that's never been possible before. So we're going to have to start collecting that data with integrity. And as we go into this, you'll hear me give some caveats on things, because this is not in any way to just throw praise at the ones with high numbers and throw shade to those with low numbers. We know that for many confounding reasons, some of which people didn't have structures in place to collect this data securely, many people have moved as much as possible over to the credit side because of the way our funding model is currently structured. So we anticipate, as funding becomes more available for non-credit and as structures are in place to collect that data, we will see this change over time. All 22 two-year colleges submitted non-credit workforce data files, and 6 of the 11 four-year universities. And throughout these charts, you'll notice that we differentiate among courses, enrollments, and students. So courses, they potentially could have as little as 1 student enrolled, so that doesn't do an excellent job of sharing the magnitude of impact courses alone have. Enrollments represent the individual instances of students registering for and participating in those courses. So it's key that we look at enrollments. Also, students may be enrolled in multiple courses, so wherever you see just students, that's unduplicated student head count. Furthermore, as we focus on student contact hours, a few hours of training in one day is very different than a lengthy training. For example, you might have a 3-hour HR training that a company wanted you to do for customized training, and that does fit into the non-credit workforce training definition, but it may not have the same impact as a more in-depth training, such as a 160-hour apprenticeship course. The number of courses, enrollments, students, and contacts hours vary demonstrably across institutions. In this, the two-year colleges are shaded a light red, although it looks very beige on the screen right now. And the four-year institutions are shaded in light blue. This is just an alphabetical order. On the next two slides, we will sort these by a couple of the categories to show some better information. So this is sorted by non-credit workforce courses, the number of courses. As a reminder, two-year colleges are shaded in beige on the screen, light red in your packet, and the four-year institutions are the light blue. Keep in mind that the number of courses, they could have low enrollments, but just be a few contacts hours. So the next slide, we will look at sorted by student contact hours. I'll give you a moment to look at that. You may notice that the average contact hour varies significantly among the top three institutions even, and I'm going to use those as an example to highlight some differences that you can't see through this. I mean, we could literally spend all day digging into this data and analyzing it. So the top institution there, when we sort by student contact hours, the University of Arkansas at Fayetteville, they have 629 courses that range in contact hours from 1 to 300 hours. 90% of their courses are 8 hours or less, and less than 1% of their courses are 100 hours or more. If we look at Northwest Arkansas Community College, 92 courses, they range from 15 to 370 contact hours. They have no courses that are 8 hours or less, and they have 47% of their courses are 100 hours or more. So you can see a big difference there. If we look at Arkansas Northeastern College, out of their 124 courses, they range in length from 2 to 176 contact hours. 46% of their courses are 8 hours or less, and 4% are 100 hours or more. So we can see a huge difference just in those top three that you would have to see more and more data points to really differentiate. We have the average contact hour per student, when we look at all the institutions together, is 36 contact hours per student. Yes, sir.
Clarify something. UA Fayetteville had 8,400 students involved in non-credit courses.
Yes, sir.
Is that an unduplicated number?
Yes.
8,400 students.
Yes.
Goodness. Wow.
Yeah. I think we might have been a little bit surprised by the magnitude of non-credit workforce being done. I know that at many of our two-year institutions, workforce training often happens in a separate area. And when I say area, I don't necessarily mean physical area, but you have like your workforce training, and you have someone that's really overseeing and leading that work. It is not like that at a university typically, and at Fayetteville, Dr. Tara Dreyer is their workforce champion there, and she really had to herd the cats and go across campus and uncover, and she's still uncovering more. Like, I get an email from her every week. What about this? What about that? Because they're finding so much non-credit training that's taking place that no one ever was talking about or paying attention to, because we just think of the four-year university being the credit side. But like the example I gave earlier of teacher training through the College of Education, there's a lot of business training happening through their Walton School of Business. So many things happening through their agricultural college. So there's lots of non-credit training taking place there. It just might look a little different than it does at our two-year institutions.
Say your students are taking non-credit courses.
I can't speak to that because I don't know offhand the number of students that they have.
Here, what's the enrollment this year at Fayetteville? So a fourth.
Yeah, a good chunk.
So
Yeah.
what I would say is this is more likely additive than duplicative. So you've got 8,400 students on top of the 33,000 that are being impacted by that university. But if you look down the row a little bit, you see some two-year colleges that aren't a tenth the size, but we have one there, what am I calling out here? BRTC, Dr. Egginsberg's in the room, that had 1,700 students impacted. What's your head count, Dr. Egginsberg? So he had 1,700 credit students and then another 1,700 non-credit. So I think what this illustrates is that it's varied and it's not uniform. And we've got assets and economies of scale at University of Arkansas Fayetteville that are serving folks with very short trainings and upskilling from an hour to 4 hours. And then we have some very robust trainings that you see in some of the community colleges that are many more hours that might be very specific to a job. I think what I feel in my heart is that this is our institutions being true to form and responsive to their audiences. You can turn short-term training very quickly because it doesn't require all of the components and accreditations and approvals that we do with accrediting agencies, boards of nursing, boards of health, whoever, or the board, even our board. So we can turn these things on a dime, and it's a huge asset to our industry as a whole to be able to be responsive to those we're serving, especially employers. And it's a good opportunity to connectivity with those. And it's just really varied and all over the map. I think that with 1 year of data, we're going to see this data tweak and change and grow and be, the longitudinal effect of that be more accurate over time. But I also think that over this past year, this gives us enough information to make a few decisions with you all in the room on where do we want to focus this non-credit formula, where are we missing, and what should folks be rewarded for. To me, the least common denominator is if we get to the point in a few years where we could match individual wage growth based on non-credit opportunities. And that's the unique identifiers that we're gathering now, so we can go apples to apples on when someone gets a certain degree or someone engages in a 4 hour, 40 hour, 400 hour non-credit opportunity. How does that, what is the equalizer there? If we could send everybody through a 4 hour short course and everyone get a $5 an hour raise, I'm pretty sure we want to do that as a state. That's tax money. But I think we have opportunities to be right with the individual, right with the state taxpayers and our institutions, and right with the companies we're serving. And we really need to look at how we balance being right with those three to be right with us all. So, Dr. Moore, I didn't mean to get in your way there. Please
It's
continue.
okay, I expected it. That's good.
Well played.
Oh, so moving along, we do have lots of charts and graphs in your packet, and I'll just highlight a few things on each. So for this comparison, we also pulled in the credit data, so we could compare credit and non-credit student age. And as you might expect, at both the 2-year and 4-year institutions, about 3/4 of students are 24 years of age and younger, so that more traditional age. I think it's very telling, though, when we look at the difference on the non-credit side, the two pie charts at the bottom, at both 2 and 4-year institutions. So at the 24 or 25 and older, you can see is much higher of a percentage at both of those. And what was really interesting, those that are 50 and older on the credit side made up only 3% of the student population. At the non-credit side, 50 and over was 21% and 28% respectively at the 2 and 4 years. So we can see a huge difference in the students being served in terms of age. Several of these, you'll see something at the bottom, and I won't just keep repeating it, it's in your notes, but this first year, some of these fields were new, and there was also an option for unknown, because sometimes that data wasn't collected. So there's a note at the bottom about how many were reported and what this is based upon. Don't want to give a false sense of the quality of the data. When we look at highest level of education, we noticed that the majority of non-credit learners had completed high school and had some college, but no credential. And it was interesting to note the percentage of students with bachelor's degrees and even graduate degrees that utilized non-credit workforce to upskill. So we might have seen that a lot even at some of our 4-year institution data. That's where a lot of those might be workshops that those folks already had a bachelor's degree. But you can see even at our 2-year colleges, 11% had a bachelor's degree. If you talk to any of our institutions here, there was a whole lot of leadership training going on, a lot of customized training for leadership that often were those individuals who already had a degree. The next slide looks at gender, and we see that at four-year universities, it was a pretty equal balance of male and female, where at the two-year college, where often we have that true workforce training, like that initial training to get a job, it was predominantly male, with about 2/3 of participants reporting as male. This next slide really helps us dig into the contact hours and the length of training. And we can see here that at two-year colleges, 31% of courses offered were 1 to 4 contact hours, and 32% of actual enrollments were 1 to 4 contact hours. So even at our two-year colleges, we had a lot of short-term training. Often this is because it's what industry is asking for, some short-term training, whether it be on leadership, HR type courses, just short things like that. At the four-year universities, not much different. 39% of courses were offered as 1 to 4 contact hours, and about half the actual enrollments were in that same length of period. You'll notice though, at the two-year colleges, almost half the courses were 9 or more contact hours, and around that same number, actual enrollments were 9 or more. Where at the four-year universities, 21% of courses offered were 9 or more hours, and 14% of actual enrollments were 9 or more. So overall, the two-year colleges offered and enrolled more students in courses with more contact hours on average than four-year colleges. Because if you dig into the data, that's where you'll see those 100-hour trainings, those 160-hour trainings, those apprenticeships. That's where you'll see those longer trainings happening much more at the two-year colleges, in line with their missions. Okay, this next slide looks at open and closed status. And that is because one focus of non-credit workforce training is customized training. As Dr. Ward mentioned, non-credit workforce training is much more nimble than our credit side of the house. They don't have the pleasure of going through Mason and Tracy for program approval and having to go before their board and all those things. So they can spin up something quite quickly on the non-credit side of the house. So we can see here, and it's going to be different as we look at institutions, because some are located in areas with a lot of industry, and they have made strong partnerships with those industry partners. Others may be in areas that there's not a lot of industry to pull from, and they're doing all they can, shaking the bushes, trying to make those partnerships. If we look at this, open enrollment is a course that is open to almost anyone. So you can just go show up and take that course. Closed enrollment is typically customized training for a specific employer or group of employers. So Big River Steel may contact ANC and say, I need you to train 10 people on this skill. And it's done specifically for that employer. If we look at these, we can see that courses and enrollments at the two-year colleges have much more customized training than our, bless you, four-year institutions. I will note, I mentioned ANC because when you think customized training, you can't help but think of ANC, because 93% of all their non-credit workforce training was customized training. Yes.
Enrollment, would you say the open, closed, like looking at the closed enrollments, those are people that are already employed, like that mirrors that, or are these people that we know that the steel industry is needing people, and so they open up a boot camp, and people who are interested in getting into that industry would come in and do that before they get hired?
Most of these are already folks who are hired, but they could have been hired and they're very brand new employees. That was a lot of the training. Initial employee training is a large part of the training across the board at our two-year colleges. Great question.
And I guess that means that most of these students are not currently enrolled on the campus.
Majority of those on the closed enrollment would not be. They're not typically someone just getting some extra skills. Here are just some examples of customized training industry partners. There were hundreds listed in the report, but these are some that you may recognize across our state. I like the variety of this. You'll see that these are industry sectors such as advanced manufacturing, healthcare, retail, and even DeQueen Fire Department. So it's all over the board, the type of training that we saw. And these are ones that had large training, not just onesies, twosies, but they had a whole lot of students enrolled in their training. So this next slide looks at registered apprenticeships. Partnering with DOL registered apprenticeships is growing more and more. And I really, based on anecdotal data, do not think that everything was captured in this non-credit report on DOL registered apprenticeships. Our 2- and 4-year institutions are providing more and more related technical instruction training for apprenticeships. The 2-year colleges, since there are so few listed on this slide, I'll call those out. Black River Technical College, National Park College, Northwest Arkansas Community College, Southern Arkansas College, University of Arkansas Community College at Batesville, and the 1 4-year university, to no surprise, is University of Arkansas Fort Smith, who does a whole lot in the workforce training section. And finally, the last 2 slides give a little bit of an overview of the type of training that was taking place. You may be familiar with classification of instructional programs. They are 6-digit zip codes that drill down to what the courses are about, and then we can tie those to the type of occupations that there are. Here, this just gives a summary because it's using the two-digit broad zip code, and this is for 2-year colleges, and I only pulled enrollments that had over 100 students, and you can see some of the top ones here. That first one, I'll just go a little deeper on that. Business management, marketing, and related support services. That includes various more specific 6-digit zip codes, such as organizational leadership with classes such as conflict management and leadership communication. Also under that 52 broad zip code is business office automation, technology, and data entry. That's where we have classes such as Microsoft Excel. Both of those examples are cross-industry sectors. It might be someone at a healthcare organization, or it might be someone at advanced manufacturing who's wanting to upskill their leadership. It might be someone from any industry you think of that they're needing their employees to have some computer skills and be able to use Excel. The 15 zip code, you might be thinking, okay, engineers at 2-year colleges. Well, that also encompasses automation, engineering, technology, and technicians for advanced manufacturing, as well as occupational safety and health technology technician, which we had a lot of OSHA 30 certifications throughout the state. If you are given pause by the number 32 zip code of basic skills and developmental remedial education and thinking, why in the world did we train 563 folks in basic skills and developmental education? Well, that actually includes computer skills, basic computer skills, which is something that employers are asking for, as well as workforce development and training is a zip code under that. So a lot of our customized training may use that zip code for customized workforce development and training. They're not just learning how to read. And then our 4-year college, you'll see some similar zip codes on here, especially the top one is still the business management, marketing, and related support services. Some that you'll see on here that you didn't see on the 2-year include public administration and social service professionals, social sciences, agri, animal, plant, veterinary science. And then some SIPs that were on the 2-year college list that you don't see on here include construction trades, which sort of makes sense. It's our 2-year colleges. They're generally doing those apprenticeships in construction, plumbing, and HVAC. You also do not see culinary. We had a lot of culinary, especially with NWAC and UAPTC, that we're not going to see on the 4-year side. And also Homeland Security, law enforcement, and firefighting is something that we saw at our 2 years, because they're the ones who are training EMTs, firemen, and paramedic more so than our 4-year institutions. So any questions I can answer at this time?
Dr. Moore, I've seen a lot of folks taking pictures of the slides. If you will just send us an email, we'll send you these slides so you don't have to download them from your phone. And one comment on the zip code, as you all know in the room know, not an exact science. Zip codes are not an exact science. And I ask that you work with your IR team to enter these zip codes as correctly and accurately as you can, because we'll be using that to make some determinations on where we need to incent this activity through funding and that type of thing. So let's please continue to do a good job as we move forward with non-credit data, particularly around the zip code portion of that.
And I'll add a caveat to that. We also collect collected SOC code, Standard Occupational Classification, and NAICS code, North America Industry Classification System. I always just say NAICS. We did collect those that are tied to the actual job and industry sector, but that data this time wasn't good data because we needed to go back and clarify that when we collect that, we mean for the individual. That example I gave you about leadership being across sectors, you can't say that that leadership is just for one SOC code or one NAICS. So we have to ask students, so what job do you do? And come up with a SOC for that. What industry are you in? And come up with that. This time around, it was more being matched as best possible to the SIP code, because there is a SIP to SOC crosswalk, say that 5 times fast. And so I think that was used a lot, and we realized that it was not as useful. So in the future, especially if we're going to do a funding model, we do want to be able to tie it as well to the SOC and NAICS potentially, and that data will get better over time. Yes, Grayson.
First of all, a comment. I really appreciate all the work that went into this. This is a great start.
Team effort.
Thank
Sure.
you all so much, because I know it's not an easy lift to start doing this, especially at our larger 4 years like Fayetteville, trying to go around and find all these. I was wondering, as we hone in on this data, one thing that I think would be very helpful for the state, for the schools, for other commissions like Economic Development Commission, is having something like like almost a heat map of skills that we're seeing on this customized training around the state. Because when potential employers are looking to come into a community or a region, they want to see a high concentration of skills. And they can pull that for credit, but they right now can't see that. So when we're in meetings with folks, we basically have to be like, trust us. Like, they're here. And if you'll just come here and bring your HR person, we'll find them for you. But having something where we could show high concentration of, you know, corporate leadership and entrepreneurship, or if you want something in welding or advanced manufacturing, that would be so helpful, I think, for communities and regions of the state to have something like that to really be able to prove what they're doing.
I 100% agree with you. Recently, and this happens more often than not, Justin Majors from AEDC reached out wanting some information because they had an employer coming in and looking at sites throughout the state. And he was wanting to know what all programs we had related to construction. And, you know, in the past, we can only pull the credit side of the house. Well, construction often is going to live in this non-credit world. So being able to have that data to share with potential employers is so very important. And as this quality of the data improves, that would be something wonderful that Sonia and her team could create a heat map of this. Anything else?
I was reminded that you don't need to email us. Nicole will post these slides, so they will be available on the website for you.
Impressed with this number of folks involved in this. I see 21,000. If someone's here from the press today, I sure hope they'll recognize this. This is very impressive.
And we didn't even catch everyone this time.
Yeah,
It'll be even more next time.
21,000 plus. Yeah, very impressive. Thank you for your excellent work.
Well, thank you to our institutions. It was a labor of love for them to put this together, and they went above and beyond to make this happen. So thank you.
But that concludes my report, so thank you.
Thank you to Drs. Warden and Moore for their presentation. And welcome again to our new people who are here today. Glad to have you folks here. Right now, we're going to agenda item number 13, and all the rest of the items are agenda items, and they'll require a vote. So we'll be prepared for that. Mason Campbell will present the concurrent enrollment policy. Mr. Campbell. Some of these,
Carr?
let me just tell my, most of these are hard to see, so you've got the PowerPoints in your packet there.
Okay. We are bringing a update to our concurrent enrollment policy. This is the second year updates and improvements to this policy. When we brought this forward last year, we said we hope this is one of many. So we're here today to follow through on that. And as a quick recap, last summer we started the cleanup. The major changes at that time were to modernize the placement measures for concurrent students, which allowed the use of multiple measures. And then same as last year, the substance of the updates we're proposing today are very meaningful for the students of Arkansas and our institution's ability to serve them better. So to note the minor changes first, this version of the policy includes updates to the organizational structure of the policy. So generally speaking, we tried to make a policy that flows better and is easier to navigate. It was a little bit piecemeal before. We've also removed even more language that's no longer relevant or applicable to common current enrollment practices. So the major policy adjustment is the focus on alignment with the Access Act, of course. Specifically, we've updated our definitions. We have new definitions in the law for accelerated learning. We actually have a very specific definition for concurrent credit courses as well. We've updated code references. Those codes moved around and where those references apply. Probably the most substantive update to this policy and the law relates to faculty and instructor qualifications. And in the past, our state has had a very specific faculty qualification for concurrent enrollment. And Arkansas was nearly a standalone with only a couple of other states with similar policies. And with this law and this policy change, Arkansas will join a much larger cohort of other states already using an institutional choice model. So those faculty qualifications will align with their institutional choice for all their other faculty members. In addition, access will require changes made to some rules on the DESE side. And while the details of those rules are still being developed, we've made some changes in this policy based on what is in the law that will provide at least some guidance until the DESE rules are fully promulgated. And we're working very closely with their new accelerated learning office at DESE. And then finally, while it's not the intent of this concurrent enrollment policy, we're on the academic side to dictate or direct institutional tuition and fee structures. We have adjusted any language in the policy that mentions tuition and fees to better align with access and Alicia's financial aid policy and processes. So these are meaningful changes. Almost all of them are a necessity due to the passing of the Access Act. And we anticipate further updates and concurrent enrollment as it continues to grow in the state. We know these changes will have a positive impact on concurrent enrollment in Arkansas. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Concurrent enrollment is a big deal in our state. So any board members have- anybody from the audience have a question about concurrent enrollment? Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the concurrent enrollment policy? Second? All in favor? Anybody opposed? Okay, Mason, you're still up.
I think so.
Agenda item number 14. The rules governing the uniform course credit for institutions of higher ed.
Sure, these rules were developed. Oh, yes, sir.
Dr. Carr, if it pleases the chair, the next several items are rules that we are asked to promulgate. For your consideration, we could look at each one of these. And if we want to pull one or two out, we can. Otherwise, we could adopt them with a single vote in the slate rather than voting 12 times in the next.
Let's do that.
Okay, so Nicole, please note.
Excellent. Okay, so these rules on uniform course credit were developed in partnership with DESE as a result of the mandate in the LEARNS Act to create uniform credit or uniform criteria for awarding credit to students who complete approved types of accelerated learning. So this rule will allow us to begin the process of continuing the good work we've already done with our coordinating board policy on advanced placement, AP credit. This rule outlines the process we'll follow to create similar policies and uniform credit crosswalks for programs like International Baccalaureate, CLEP, and the Cambridge Advanced Institutional International Certificate. That's all now.
Yes, as Mason said, most of well, as my friend in the back said, I'm standing between you and lunch, so I'm going to go as quickly as possible with all 12 of them. Uh, so scholarship stacking policy change. Let's see, this is agenda item number 5. All of the ones that I'm presenting today are direct result of Act 341 of Session 2025, also known as the Arkansas Access Act. There is no known opposition for any of these, and the fiscal impact is listed on each. The scholarship stacking policy presents a change to the scholarship stacking order, and it does outline the cost of attendance by using the definitions that are provided by the Integrated Post-Secondary Education Data System, or otherwise known as IPEDS. And it does include language that limits the scholarship awards of private colleges to the same amount that we would give a public institution. You want me to ask for questions at the end and rock on, or do you want me to ask for questions after each slide, Dr. Carr? Agenda item number 16, this is the rule change for the Workforce Challenge Scholarship Program. There is a fiscal impact there of roughly $9 million. The substantive changes include ballot initiative number 1 of 2024 to include the private career ed vocational schools. And there adds some clarifying language on covered programs and also allows for a higher award amount. Agenda item number 17, the Access to Acceleration Scholarship. There is a fiscal impact of roughly $15.5 million. This is offset by $3.8 million in a reduction due to the repeal of the concurrent challenge, which is our existing scholarship program to fund concurrent opportunities. The change does increase the award amount for students. It establishes continuing eligibility criteria, and then it also establishes a process for extraordinary circumstances. Agenda item number 18 is the Concurrent Challenge Scholarship Program, and this is a repeal of the program that we just mentioned earlier being replaced by Access to Acceleration. Same with agenda item number 19. This is a repeal of the Law Enforcement Officers Dependent Scholarship. This particular scholarship is being rolled in with the Military Dependent Scholarship and creating a new scholarship called the Arkansas Heroes. And it includes dependents of different state personnel and different state and law enforcement personnel, and then of course the military dependents who were 100% disabled or killed in the line of duty. Their dependents receive this particular scholarship. Agenda item number 20 is the Arkansas Academic Challenge Scholarship. There is a fiscal impact to this because it does change the freshman award amount, and it does add eligibility opportunities for students. Agenda item number 21 is the Governor's Higher Education Transition Scholarship. This is an existing program that we already have, but it was not codified in language. So now it did codify the scholarship, and it did clarify the number of eligible semesters that students can receive this scholarship. Agenda item number 22 is the residency classification for state-funded scholarships. This established a minimum criteria for in-state resident classification for the purposes of state scholarship eligibility. And I would make a note that this is just kind of an overarching guideline. If there is specific information included in the specific language of a scholarship, we of course default to that eligibility requirement. Agenda item number 23 is the Arkansas Teacher Academy program. The major changes to this program were we changed the eligibility from semester to hours, which is a really big important thing for students who want to be teachers or who are getting their graduate degree. Oftentimes they're already working in a district, and this enables them to be enrolled part-time while they are also working in a district. Agenda item number 24 is the Arkansas Teacher Opportunity Program. This is what we call TOP. And I know we all go into education to get rich, but it was a barrier for some of our teachers to be able to pay out of pocket for these opportunities to advance their education. So we are changing this from a reimbursement program to a scholarship program where we will pay the institution directly. And the last agenda item, number 25, is the Arkansas Future Grant Program. And the big change for this is, again, going by semesters. Instead of going by semesters for eligibility, we're going by the hours of hours in a semester to allow for a part-time enrollment. Any questions on any of these rules as presented?
I just want to recognize a couple of folks in the room. Courtney Salas Ford's here, the Chief of Staff of the department, for her support with the department and with the chief and the legal support. And Alicia Price is in the room, who is our chief liaison to the legal department at ADE. Not to mention, but to mention Alicia Lewis and Nick Fuller for their work on these rules. We went through that rather fastly. Rules promulgation is a very arduous and time-consuming process, but I want to appreciate these four folks that are in the room for all the work. Hundreds of hours of work have gone into this over the last few months since the session. So thank you so much for getting this to us in this July meeting. I know it took a lot of work. Appreciate you.
Alicia, thank you. For any questions? Any opposed? Now, this is the funny part. Just had the finance committee, and now we're gonna have the finance committee meeting report to the whole board, which the finance committee meeting was the whole. So this won't happen.
Yeah, so this should be the last time this happens, but we were gonna, to be right with the world, we're gonna do it one more time.
Finance committee and to the full board. Finance committee recommends the approval of agenda item number 1. Just earlier. Get a motion to approve. Second,
Second.
all in favor? The academic committee, which we're all a part of, recommends the approval of agenda items 5, 8A, and 9. Get a motion. Second.
Second.
Good. Somebody's got a second now. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Okay, we'll now open up the floor to any presidents or chancellors who'd like to address the board. If you would come to the mic and identify yourself, we'd be happy to hear from you. Okay, that's easy. Dr. DePro, back in the back, thank you very much for hosting us today. And we don't recognize her enough. Nicole Abernathy, right here in the front. Nicole, thank you very much. She puts all these meetings together, and I just appreciate her very much. And thank you, Nicole, for your work. Dr. Warden, thank you for putting together a great staff, and we appreciate their reports today. Next meeting will be at AHECB. Madam Chancellor, raise your hand back here. October the 24th.